Hi, my name is Jaden and I'm a tutor at the Robinson Writing Center. To begin understanding how to analyze a quote, you need to understand what is analysis and what is not. There's another screencast available that explains what plot summary is, so if you aren't sure, head on over there before you begin this screencast. There's another screencast available that explains quote integration, which is also a useful resource in writing an essay like this. Now that you know the difference between plot summary and analysis, we can begin discussing what it means to analyze a quote and how it can provide the strongest evidence for your thesis. Before we get into examples, here are the basic steps to analyzing a quote. Number 1. Select a quote that you know proves the thesis. Number 2. Identify relevant literary devices. This can range from anything from similes, metaphors, motifs, personification, etc., etc. Number 3. What does the literary device do to contribute to the story? Why is the quote significant? And number 4. What's the author's purpose in using the quote/literary device? Were they successful? Use quotes where the answer is always yes. The first example we're going to look at is from Lord of the Flies. A basic thesis we're going to be working with is William Golding uses the devolution of humanity to comment on the savage nature of man. So we're going to choose a passage that we know exemplifies a lack of humanity. What immediately comes to mind is the rape scene with Jack and his followers. This is a passage that I've chosen to focus on. He giggled and flicked them while the boys laughed at his reeking palms. Then Jack grabbed Maurice and rubbed the stuff over his cheeks. Roger began to withdraw his spear, and the boys noticed it for the first time. Robert stabilized the thing in a phrase that was received uproariously. "Right up her ass." Did you hear? Did you hear what he said? Right up her ass. This time Robert and Maurice acted the two parts, and Maurice's acting of the pig's efforts to avoid the advancing spear was so funny that the boys cried with laughter. At length even this paled. Jack began to clean his bloody hands on the rocks. Then he started to work on the sow and paunched her, lugging out the hot bags of colored guts, pushing them into a pile on the rock while the others watched him. He talked as he worked. So we ask ourselves, how do we know that this is an example of a lack of humanity? This is where you start to pick relevant literary devices. Right off the bat, imagery is a huge player with the line, "He started to work on the sow and paunched her, lugging out the hot bags of colored guts, pushing them into a pile on the rock while the others watched him." Golding meant for this sentence to be extremely disturbing, and the laughter of the boys in the scene is used to trivialize the violence, which is how we know that it's considered a devolution of humanity. Personification and symbolism are also big players. The spear throughout the book is a phallic symbol, which it's a blatant representation of masculinity. We know that because it's what's used to assert power over animals and the other boys, and what they used to kill the pig in this scene. In addition to the symbol, the personification of the pig as a woman is also prevalent. This is obvious by consistently referring to it as a her. The two literary devices together lead us to conclude that the scene is about rape, and confirmed with the repeating of "up her ass" in the passage. These three literary devices then contribute to the lack of humanity and relays the savagery of man that Golding is trying to convey. Next, we can look at Of Mice and Men. The thesis that we're working with is John Steinbeck depicts the futility of the American dream through dialogue and diction. The passage we're looking at is Crook speaking to Lenny about his desire to have rabbits and land. "You're nuts," Crooks was scornful. "I seen hundreds of men come by on the road and on the ranches, with their bindles on their back and that same damn thing in their heads. Hundreds of them. They come and they quit and go on, and every damn one of 'em's got a little piece of land in his head, and never a goddamn one of 'em ever gets it. Just like heaven. Everybody wants a little piece of land. I read plenty of books out here. Nobody never gets to heaven and nobody gets to land. It's just in their head. They're all the time talking about it, but it's just in their head." His straightforward, blunt diction represents the harsh reality of the American dream. Because this is a piece of dialogue, we can say that Steinbeck has used dialogue to further drive this point home. The use of mild profanity and the straightforward connotation of "nobody gets to heaven" indicate that the American dream is just not possible. Sometimes all you need is one literary device to prove your thesis, and then you can move on to different quotes throughout the novel. So to summarize, you should always pick a quote that supports your thesis. When you analyze, you should ask yourself, what is the author's choice here? What is its effect? And how does it contribute to the work as a whole? There is no magic formula to doing a great analysis of any kind of quote. It really just takes practice, and with practice, it becomes a lot easier to find the relevant literary devices in the quotation. By using literary devices and analysis in our essays, we can really demonstrate that we understand the purpose behind the author's intention, and we can demonstrate to our readers that we understand the text. We want to analyze every quote that we put into our essays because it really gives a great backbone for our paper and our thesis. An analytical paper that's missing analysis can never really be successful. Thank you for tuning in.